Good morning and welcome back to Morning Express. A quick apology and clarification that CEO of Media Council of Kenya, who's now joining me, Harun Mwangi, to talk about the industry and some of the work that they've been doing. Thank you so much, Mr. CEO, for being with us this morning. Let's start with one of the exercises that you're doing, and I alluded to that before we went on break, the inspection and vetting of these institutions that teach journalism. What informed this exercise?
Of course, there has been an observation from the industry and from the Media Council in particular of the issues of concern when it comes to quality of journalists in Kenya. And that concern has also increased the number of complaints that come to the Media Council of Kenya. And we sat and thought, what is happening? Is it the quality of journalists that is not good? Is it the training facilities that are not there? Is it that the journalists are negligent? What is happening?
Yeah, what is the problem?
And we thought we need to carry out a study, and we carried out a study about on the working condition of journalists in Kenya, and that brought a lot of issues. Number one, it brought out issues about the quality of training, the facilities in colleges, and diversity in terms of level of training. Some colleges would train a journalist for 6 months, you get a diploma. 9 months, you get a diploma. 1.5 years, you have a diploma.
So
2.5 years, diploma. So you wonder, what should you go through, really, if you are going to be a good journalist? What are the key issues, and what are the parameters here, and what are the subjects that should be taught at college level? So that now prompted us to think about that, and the curriculum team was formed. And this curriculum team has been doing this work for the last 3 years. I think this is the 4th year now. So it brought together the scholars at the university, it brought together the practitioners in the media houses, it brought together the veteran journalists, and they sat down to explore areas of gaps in the training. And therefore they developed a curriculum. This curriculum has gone through that process and has been discussed by the editors, it has been discussed by the media houses, it has been discussed by colleges and practitioners, and therefore we feel that it is a good curriculum.
So it's one you'd want to see used across the board
by all colleges. But more importantly is the fact that it is now going through the vetting by the Kenya. I think it is the former KIAs, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development now. And once it goes through that, then we'll be ready now to use it. But again, it is one thing to develop a good curriculum. It's another, really, to have facilities and equipment and lecturers who can be able to deliver on that particular curriculum. So we are saying before we get to that, we need to go through the inspection process. Luckily, in the new Media Act 2013, we have a provision to inspect colleges. We have a provision to set standards. And therefore we have that particular, the legal mandate basically to take or to go through the process. So we made an advert, and we ran an advert asking colleges to submit their portfolios, tell us where you are, where you are located, the contact person, the level of training, the facilities and equipment that you have, the qualifications of your teachers who are training, and your vision, your mission in terms of training, and whether you are linked to the universities locally or internationally, so that really after getting that portfolio, you're able to organize ourselves in terms of now the process of inspection, which now starts in September. But also more importantly is that we have developed a criteria of inspection that meets the best international standards, with the help of TVET. The TVET is that arm of the government, or the department of the government that deals with the registration of all colleges in Kenya. But we are not going to deregister any college. If you've been registered
but
by
what if they're found wanting?
But if you're registered by the government to train, among others, journalism, if we come and inspect your facilities and find that you are not ready to train journalism, you'd go on training those other things, aviation, tourism,
so
and ours purely journalism. So we want to array that fear.
that they'll close down.
That you close college. You're not closing colleges. If you have been accredited by the government, you have been registered, you have met minimum requirement for teaching other programs, you will go ahead and teach those other programs. But the journalism unsuitable for journalism as a particular subject, then you will say no, you can't teach this.
So you've invited them to give these submissions, this information about the institutions. What happens to those who do not do that?
But what happens is that we'll eventually get to know where they are, and we'll just inspect them. This is also going to make our work easier. But if you don't submit and we know you're teaching journalism, of course we'll come and inspect. And then of course if you're found to not to meet the requirements, the law is very clear that you stop. You stop teaching. I think it's a breath of fresh air for many people who want to get into the industry and for parents, because there's been so many of these institutions popping up. How many are we looking at roughly, a figure in terms of what institutions offering journalism? I think universities and colleges totally is about 48. Totally about 48. Okay. But of course again our mandate is restricted to the middle level colleges. Okay. But the law is very open, that we can even write letters to the university, because we know there are universities in Kenya that do not have qualified teachers. They do not have facilities. They do not have equipment. They do not have studios, for example. They don't have editing suites, for example. And we're telling them that we are cautioning them that you need to have these facilities, and that if you don't have these facilities and your graduates do not meet the competences that we expect, then we're not even to accredit them, and as journalists, as the Media Council of Kenya. And we're also going to press upon the media house not to to address, not even to give job to those kind of journalists. Yeah, I was just going to ask you that, because sometimes that's the other challenge. The take-in of the journalists, sometimes from the media houses, it will be from the point of she can read good, he can read good, or can do and do this good. In terms of really what they've gone through, that sometimes takes the back seat. So how are you merging those two? We have the goodwill of the media houses and the media managers in terms of supporting this cause, and therefore one way of supporting us is to ensure that the journalists that we recommend from those colleges that meet the minimum competences and skills are the people that get jobs in the media house and are duly accredited by the Media Council. By the Media Council. Yes. So this process will be taking place from when to when? It will be taking place between September and October. And we think that we can be able to launch our curriculum in November and have it, implemented again in January next year. Yes. We have a show which happens every Wednesday. We're looking at how, as the media, we conduct ourselves and how we cover various stories. And one of the issues that keeps coming back, even with feedback, even from our viewers, is the rate at which, turnover of journalists, that those that have been in the industry for a longer time, we still don't see them in the field. It's the younger people, the older ones are moving to the more experienced, if you like, to the desk as editors. So the question of experience has really come into question. The question of these people having that institutional memory. Why is there that gap? That it's very, you see, just, I guess we are young people. Yeah, I think one of the major concern is that media houses are really for profit institutions, and they're looking at the bottom line in terms of what they can bring to the shareholders and to the owners, and that the senior editors really are becoming managers in the media houses. Look at the issues of the news articles, and looking at how relevant are they to the bottom line. How relevant are they in terms of bringing more audience, the readership, the viewership, the listenership, and basically therefore how they can be translated eventually into money, right? And therefore that's why you see many editors even going back to study masters in business, masters of commerce, and because of that. But they bring in young journalists who have not been mentored and not prepared to take up the challenges. So mentorship or apprenticeship, where really journalists or young people work under really experienced journalists, is not there. So that before you bring in journalists, you bring 4 or 5 journalists who is going to mentor this, under who are they going to work, and for how long. So a young journalist is not supposed to just be engaged and then sent out to Lamu to cover an event, or sent out to Mombasa to cover an event, without really working in the media house for a span of about 6, 7, or even 1 year, so that that person is well built in terms of the nuts and bolts, the practical aspect of it, the challenges that goes with the job, the predisposition and proper attitudes, that can only be inculcated through the process of mentorship. That now is lacking in many media houses. We are in a hurry to bring in and to send out and pay little, basically. Some of them are paid through M-Pesa, and sometimes there is no charges of withdrawal of cash. Some are correspondents that are paid so little. So we are saying then that the media houses must take responsibility. And as much as we are going to train, they have even a bigger responsibility even to train. And a sizable amount of their returns and their profit should go in training of journalists. So how many media houses have a very clear training program? Very few have a clear training program. For the nation media, they have the media lab. Yes, that now trains graduates that want to go into specialized kind of area. But how many have other proper in-house training on code of conduct, on emerging issues in terms of covering conflict, on emerging issues such as being traumatized and covering dangerous, areas? How many journalists have those programs? They don't have them.
And it's good to bring that up, because yesterday you had a forum. These are some of the issues that came up: safety of journalists, dealing with this trauma. What informed this session, and what are the issues that were discussed?
This came from the experience of journalists from Somalia, the journalists who covered the Somali-Kenyan conflict. It also came from what happened in Lamu, in Malindi, in the Tana River. And then more recently, the Lamu, and more recently again, the Westgate. So the very young people who got seriously traumatized, they have never covered Kajiado story. You're walking on dead bodies, really. It was so traumatizing. And therefore, for the first time, we had a session in Malindi that brought the journalists from Tana River, from Standard Nation and all that, mainstream media houses, you would imagine. And we went and we took them through a clinic. And it was an expression of relief to those journalists. And therefore, the Media Council started a program, of counseling journalists. And we have now standby, counselors that try to help those people cope up with the stresses. And again, what happened in Westgate, very young journalists, 20, 22, 23, you're reporting from the field. You have never had such a kind of an experience. And you don't have even protective gear, you don't even have, health insurance. Anything can happen. How do you cope up with those kind of challenges? And therefore, it was because of that we formed a working group to look at what are the key issues and challenges, and how do we develop a protocol and standard that are required to be observed by the media houses and by journalists themselves as they get out to cover these kind of events. So this group brought up the Media Council, the Article 19, the Coalition for Protection of Human Rights, and Poeza Communication, and Kenya Media Program that supported the development of the document, and therefore we have a very solid document that has been supported by the media owners. Surprisingly, they all came and owned up the document, and they have signed. Some have signed, and of course they will continue signing. And the editors and correspondents and Kenya Union of Journalists, the universities and colleges. And the most interesting thing is that even colleges now want to make the safety and security of journalists a part of their training curriculum. So again, when this is mainstreamed both in the media house and mainstreamed at the universities and colleges in terms of training, then the aspect of safety and security becomes a core component of journalists as they get training.
And you mentioned with safety, one of the most affected journalists are the correspondents, those in the county level. Why is that?
Because it is at the county level that these things happen. For example, yeah, if you talk about Lamu, who are those in Lamu? Those are the correspondent in Lamu. If you talk about what has now happened in Nakuru, of course, again, bodies are banned. It's just a correspondent who will quickly be able to rush and uncover it. And most of these correspondents are young people really that have no experience, have not had any exposure on those issues.
Yeah.
So they are really open to effect and to the influence of what they see.
Yeah. We're told that the media, whatever bleeds, leads, and there's a lot of politics in what our coverage is. Do you get a sense there's public interest, or we're giving what we think everyone else is interested in the public? As journalists, as we cover stories,
you know, audience are becoming very tricky to address and to meet their needs, and the audience are highly segmented. We have people who are highly interested in politics. We have families that are interested in family issues. We have young people interested in sports and emerging issues. We have now the government. We have the opposition. The segments are so many, and meeting the demands of all those segments is becoming a challenge really to the media houses.
Yeah.
And then, of course, on the other side, you have the media that are really driven by the issues of audience number and readership numbers, and then the ratings and the whole issues of how you can translate that and pack your audience so that you can sell them to the advertisers, because that's the whole business. So because of that, there is a content that is reflective of the masses, and that's where, you know, many media houses will go. That content that is reflective of the masses in terms of soaps, in terms of politics, it is what really majority those kind of demands. So that the minority, which is about 10% really, that content is not reflective. It's not ideal. And therefore that's why many Kenyans would say that media is becoming so political, because they want to, you know, to address
other issues.
Those other issues.
The Supreme Court is yet to decide on the digital migration, but as a media council, what do you see that space creating? Because eventually we're going to go there, you know, digital migration. What does that mean for the industry, for people who are getting into the industry, for those who are already in it? What does that getting into the digital migration space mean?
You're right. Whether we like it or not, by June 15, 2015, we'll have migrated. That's the bottom line. And migration has many opportunities for many people in Kenya. One, it has the benefit of content. And many young people who are graduating in the universities may not get jobs directly into the media houses, but they have room to develop their own content and sell the content to the media houses. Number two, it is going to increase diversity and competition. Today, we have 5 or 6 leading media houses, and that controls over 98% of the audience. That consolidation again is likely to be, you know, reduced through diversification in terms of many channels, and therefore there will be many options. There will be diversity in terms of content and diversity in terms of ideas, so that there is no pack of ideas that are brought together by just 6 or 5 leading media houses. We have other stations that are coming up with different ideas. Number 4, we are likely to have the thematic channels. The thematic channels are channels that are going to say, we have just this channel for farmers. We have this channel specifically for education. We have this channel specifically for politics. We have this channel specifically for sport and entertainment. Therefore, there are likely to be very specialized channels as competition increases, because you're saying that every analog, you know, TV station, once we go digital, it's going to give us maybe 20 to 25 channels. Those are many channels. So there is opportunity for employment, there is opportunity for diversity and of ideas for Kenyans, which is relevant for politics and for development. And we also have the opportunity to watch clear and more appealing pictures. So basically, it has a lot of advantage. Yes. A while back,
a lot of the stories we had as the media went to the streets was on the freedoms, media freedoms. Where are we now in terms of what our coverage can do, the fines involved, if there are complaints against stories run? Where is that whole?
We have conservatory orders, and therefore of course, there were provision now in the Kicker Act and the Media Council Act.
Right.
The Kicker Act called for the formation of multimedia tribunal, which unfortunately was not even addressing any other aspect. It was going to address the issues of media. But of course, the person who coined it thought or had it that it was going to address the issues of courier services, telecommunication services, and so forth. But unfortunately, it only addressed the issues of journalists, and where 20 million shillings fine for a media house and 500,000 shillings for a journalist was a little bit on the high side. It was going to send, chilling message that you need to be careful and restraining their freedom, so to speak, because journalists are going to be afraid of the consequences of making, of messing up in terms of ethics. Right. For now, we are okay. We are okay because I would say that Kenya is really free in terms of media. And I'm not sure that there's a country that would point us and say that Kenya doesn't have media freedom. Okay. Of course, there were issues of saying that the media, these laws were going to constrain us, really. For example, we cannot have a multimedia tribunal looking at the media, at the issues of ethics, and have the Complaints Commission again, look at the issues of ethics. Yes. There was going to be double jeopardy, where a journalist would get himself into the tribunal and also into the Complaints Commission. Okay.
Yeah. Finally, as we wrap up, a scale of 1 to 10, how do Kenyan journalists and the media, as we practice our craft, compare to other countries in Africa and across the world, in your estimate?
In terms of freedom, I would, from 0 to 9, I would put ourselves at around 9.
Professionalism?
Professionalism, I put ourselves at around 5.
Technology?
Technology, I would put ourselves at around 5.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have a lot to do.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
CEO of Media Council of Kenya with us this morning. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for joining us today for the show. It has been a great pleasure, always a delight to be part of your morning. We'll see you again tomorrow. We have a great show lined up for you. The newsroom with our usual panelists. And of course, as well, a lifestyle interview with amazing ladies who will be talking to us about cervical cancer. So that's coming by your way tomorrow. I wish you a lovely day and thank you for watching.